Nearly 4 in 10 people in Singapore have experienced online harm. That's according to a new study. Over 1,000 Singaporeans and residents aged 15 and above were polled in April by non-profit group SG Her Empowerment, or SHE. Researchers say tackling the problem requires more than tougher laws, calling for stronger support and greater public awareness. Sherlyn Seah reports.
From online harassment and cyberbullying to defamation and hate speech, these are just some of the many forms of online harms. For those affected, help is available. Singapore's first dedicated support centre for such survivors has assisted more than 600 people since opening in 2023. One of them is SHE chairperson Stephanie Yuan Teo herself.
There were deepfake sexy videos of me on a platform, which one of my colleagues noticed and sent to me. And I know what the journey is like. And it really made a lot of difference that I had people at my back who knew exactly what to do, what to click, which one to report.
Her experience reflects a wider problem. 1 in 4 respondents said they've encountered at least one form of online harm in the past year. Researchers say both women and men are affected, but many still don't know where to turn for help.
They have different kinds of barriers that they're facing. We really want to encourage all survivors to come forward and seek help. Harms are not normal. You shouldn't accept them, and you should step forward to speak to someone who can help you through that.
7 in 10 respondents also support the removal of harmful content. Researchers will now assess if new policies make a difference, with the findings coming less than a month after the Online Safety Commission began operations under new laws.
The latest has been online safety, to promote and regulate behaviour, to look at recourse, relief, and to have a framework that is quick, that allows victims to quickly access the resources and find support. But I want to emphasize that this is really just a framework for regulation, and we can't depend on this alone. A lot of the work has got to go upstream to normalize behavior, to break down gender norms, to reflect the way in which we want to build a respectful and responsible society, how we do online discourse.
That's where organizations like SHE play an important role, alongside technology companies.
We will continue to invest in the ability to help users report quickly and also to take down the content. But technology aside, I think that's where the report also highlighted we need a whole of society effort to make sure that we react and respond to the flags, and also to build that long-term resilience.
The tech giant will also update its digital literacy programs in schools and the heartlands, including topics on generative AI.
Now we break down other key findings for you. Overall, only 4 in 10 respondents said they felt safe online. Some even avoided online discussions altogether, just to reduce the risk of harm. Close to 4 in 10 survivors reported at least one severe impact, including health issues and even financial losses. She warns if left unchecked, online harms could impact Singaporeans' sense of safety and quality of public discourse. Now, 6 in 10 survivors reported the harm to official channels, but only 1 in 10 took legal action. Many felt the incident was not serious enough or that nothing could be done. She is calling for better coordinated support to make reporting and seeking help easier. With 6 in 10 unaware of available channels, it also plans to step up public outreach. And for more on what these findings tell us about online harms in Singapore, we're joined by Kay Lii, who is the Chief Executive Officer of SG Her Empowerment, or SHE, which conducted this study. Kay Lii, welcome to the show.
Hi, Angela.
Now, first of all, let's look at this finding in the study. 4 in 10 respondents say they felt safe online. That's less than half. So what does that tell you about the state of our digital environment today?
I think it tells us we should be very concerned. Generally, all of us feel very safe in the streets of Singapore. So to have only 4 in 10 Singaporeans feel the digital space is, dangerous, or, that they are fearful of it, I think tells us that we need to be paying more attention to this problem. I think a lot of people are not aware of online harms until perhaps they've personally encountered something. So the awareness levels are really for us to work on together. And I think media opportunities like this are always very useful. We like to share with the media, actually, that when we do coverage on these sort of stories, it normalizes the help seeking. And we do see more people then stepping forward because they feel that they are not, alone in their situation and that there are others just like them and that there is help available for them.
Yeah, so help us understand a bit more. The online anxiety is said to affect men and women quite differently. Can you tell us what that difference is?
So, firstly, just to be clear with everybody, She Cares, the center, is open to everyone. So we have male and female clients as well. But we do see that the men and the women have different barriers when it comes to help seeking. I think women, for example, we think perhaps there's a lot of shame and stigma attached to the help seeking process. It's something that a lot of us perhaps have grown up with, certain perceptions of ourselves. But just not so willing to open up to speak to others about it. Yeah. And I think women do tend to face some of the more sexual sort of harms, and there is a lot of social stigma attached to that. Even opening up to the close ones around them is not a natural step for a lot of women to take. And that's really where I think the center comes into play. The counselors are able to walk alongside every survivor, help them to regain some form of agency and give them the options that let them choose what are the next steps that they wish to take.
So let's talk a bit about some of the solutions and these options then. What are some environments or behaviors or even platforms that we can really tap on and to use these tools then to reduce online harm?
Well, one of the unique relationships we have with the tech platforms is what we call the trusted flagger status. So what it means really, simplistically, is if a victim comes to us, we can do a customized report, almost like a case study of what they've gone through, and then share it with the tech platform. And it's going to be reviewed by a person instead of a bot. Understanding the context of the harm, being able to piece together the different nuances really helps the tech platform then decide very quickly that that particular offensive content should be taken down. And we do have quite a good success rate of helping to take all these offensive content down quite quickly. The OSC recently launched a few weeks back. I think it's another medium now that survivors can go to as well. I think having more of these options will help to regain, hopefully help society, I think, regain trust in the digital space.
Yeah. Online harms or the impacts of that can have very lasting effects, not just mentally, emotionally, but also physical health can be impacted. Do you think sometimes people underestimate the impact of the harm that these online spaces can create? And what can we do about that?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of survivors, when they first come to us, they come in at very high rates of emotional distress. So a lot of the initial engagement with them is to try and reduce that distress. And that distress sometimes manifests in very physical symptoms, as you just described. It can be like sleeplessness, loss of appetite, unwilling to go out to work, unwilling to go to school. And I think that impacts the overall well-being of that person. In more extreme cases, there are then ideations of self-harm, which is something we really don't want anybody to be going through. How they can cope, I think really then taking the first step to speak to someone about it is always very helpful. Like I mentioned earlier, it's about regaining some form of control over a situation that has escalated very rapidly and that they feel like they really don't know what to do about it.
And there are many people, as you mentioned earlier as well, who are afraid or they're not really willing to come forward, especially at the beginning when it's just happened. What would you say to encourage more people? And maybe even if it's happened to someone you know, how can we encourage people to come forward and remove that sort of stigma and the shame, as you mentioned?
I think it's a slightly more complicated sort of, emotional processing that every client will have to consider. And we won't know the backstory of every survivor, right? Actually, a lot of them do have been suffering for quite a while before they come to us. So we can only imagine the amount of turmoil that they've been going through. But I think, and I know it's easy to say, right, to be brave and to take that first step and to reach out. But I would like survivors to know that they are really not alone. There are, as you can tell from the statistics, right, that online harms are so prevalent. So they're really not alone in their circumstance. There are now so many different pathways for recourse that they can consider, OSC being one, She Cares being another. And there are actually a lot of other community partners out there that will be a very helpful first touch point for them. So just come in with hopefully a slightly more open mind. Trust that there are people who will care, who will listen to you, and who are willing to help you through this.
Kay Lii, before we go, just one thing, if you were to give a very important advice to victims of online harm, what would you say is something that can help them empower or protect themselves?
I think the bigger question is how can we as a society protect ourselves? And one thing that we're discussing a lot, with our partners and internally as well, is how do we decide what is a common code of conduct in the digital space that Singapore can agree on. I don't think we need to look at other references, but really as Singaporeans in our context, how can we build a safer digital space? How can we show each other kindness, respect? Don't say things that you wouldn't say in person in an online space just because there's anonymity, there's, that your names and your faces are not shown. I think that's pushing it a bit. And if we can all be kinder and more respectful to each other, then hopefully, these numbers will improve over time as well.
All right, Kay Lii, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this very important issue. I've been chatting so far with CEO of SG Her Empowerment, Kay Lii.